What's up, y'all? New Grundy here with a Pauper set review for Modern Horizons 3, the year's most exciting set. Right off the bat, let's talk about something that has never happened in Pauper before. Cranial Ram is banned pre-release. Before the set is even out, Cranial Ram is getting the ban hammer. Why? How have they made this decision without even trying it out? Well, it's because of the obvious similarities that Cranial Ram has to previously banned cards like Cranial Plating and Sojourner's Companion. These cards have completely warped in the meta around playing Affinity or playing against Affinity, which is just not fun. The whole game becomes a sort of one-note joke. So, although I was excited for Cranial Ram because of its sick art, not a surprise at all here that it's been banned. Next to Cranial Ram, they did discuss once again in their post about banning the various artifact lands. However, they did not. I'm really happy. The artifact lands are just such a staple of the format and can be used in many other strategies outside of artifact-based ones or Affinity. For instance, Great Furnace is used in Kuldotha Red, and the bridge lands are used in Wildfire ramp decks. They did also, in their post regarding the ban, talk about banning Refurbished Familiar. Let's break this card down. It is a zombie rat for 4 mana, however it has affinity, so most likely you're going to always be casting this for just 1 mana. It's a 2/1 flyer that when it enters, your opponent discards a card. If they can't, you draw a card. Wow, does quite a lot here. I don't think this is worth being banned because unlike Cranial Planning or cards like ATOG and such, it's not going to just end the game out of nowhere. It's not going to, swing 10 in the air at our opponent. It's just a very, very efficient, aggressive creature. We're most likely going to see this played alongside things such as Glint Hawk and Blood Fountain and Grixis Affinity. And we'll wait and see if it gets the ban. Again, I'm calling it now. I don't think so. But maybe I also just don't hope so, because look at that guy. He's a cute little zombie rat. Next up, we got Dross Claw, a pretty much fair version of Cranial Plating. Pretty underwhelming here. I don't think this is going to see any play, but it could be good in mono black mono black suicide aggro. Probably too slow though. Next up, we have Eviscerator's Insight, a straight up better version of cards like Altar's Reap and Costly Plunder. But is it better than Deadly Dispute or Reckoner's Bargain? I think it's definitely going to be worth trying out. I mean, nothing's better than Deadly Dispute, but Eviscerator's Insight could replace Reckoner's Bargain as the second go-to, as your Deadly Disputes copies 5 through 8, because it has flashback. You can cast it out of the grave. If you mill it, you can cast it twice even. So really cool form of card advantage here. Next up, we have a Cursed Marauder, which is a 2/1 zombie warrior for 2 mana. When it enters, each player sacrifices a non-token creature. Pretty much just all around a better version of Fleshbag Marauder. It's cheaper, has the same stat line, but the biggest thing here is that it's forcing each player to sacrifice a non-token creature. So your opponent can't just, pitch their 0/1 plant token. They're going to have to get rid of something of a little more value. Fleshbag Marauder already sees play in zombie decks where we don't want to sacrifice our tokens. Instead, we want to sacrifice things like Shambling Ghast or Sultai Emissary, which have really good death triggers once they're out of there. So, Cursed Marauder, really exciting card. Next up, we have Airy Auxiliary. I think it's Airy Auxiliary. A lot of these cards have like really hard to pronounce names, which is great if you're a YouTube content creator, right? I don't think this card's going to see any play, but I wanted to mention it because it seems like a straight up better version of Relief Captain. And Relief Captain was a recent downshift that we got in Pauper that I was really excited about. Again, as a 4 mana creature, probably too slow. Cubable, yes. Maybe it'll find its way in something, but yeah, worth mentioning. Next up, we have Dog Umbra. This is a 2 mana aura with flash, and it has some flexibility here. If we cast it on our opponent's creature, it's essentially a pacifism. and if we cast it on our own creature, it basically gives that creature totem armor. Why? I can't understand why on this card it says Umbra armor instead of totem armor. This is the most weirdly worded card that I've seen. It just is frustrating to even think about, but I think this could see some play. I mean, in certain Heliod Pilgrims list, you'll play things such as Kurtar's Desire, sort of toolbox enchantment decks where you can kind of fetch whatever you want. Decks based off of flexibility and choices, and Doug Umbra just adds to that even more. So auras are typically kind of bad because of their sorcery speed, and they set you up for 2-for-1s. Doug Umbra, however, circumvents both of those shortcomings. So pretty cool card. Next up, we have Mandibular Kite. Essentially, it's a 1/1 flyer for 1, but it has living weapons, so once that creature dies, this will stick around as an equipment and can serve a little more purpose in the long game. Not sure if it's playable, but worth mentioning because we have other efficient artifact 1-drops in white, so Mandibular Kite could be exactly what those sort of lists need for consistency. Next up, we have Thraven Charm. Really cool card here. Not hard to understand why this is good. It's a 2-mana instant in white that can deal damage. White, doesn't have a lot of good removal. Things like Journey to Nowhere are still played, which are a little more fragile and slow. And we can also use this to destroy enchantments or exile graveyards. So this seems like a welcome addition to any white deck sideboard for sure. Next up, we got Jolted Awake. Jolted Awake is a reanimation spell. It costs 1 white mana, gives us 2 energy, and then we can pay energy equal to the card's mana value to reanimate it. It also has cycling. This is basically the white Unearth. Unearth is a card that sees a lot of play. It's never dead in your hand because of the cycling. And 1 mana to get back, a creature from our graveyard that costs 3 or less is great. Jolted Awake can bring back even bigger creatures. The thing is I don't know. There's just not a lot of good energy stuff in Pauper. We are getting another new card in this set, Inspired Inventor, which gives you 3 energy upon entering. So combine that with an Ephemerate, and maybe Jolted Awake could be even better than Unearth. I don't know. I think it's less consistent, but it is a cool color pie shift. So I like this card. Next up, we have Wing It. I kind of hate the name of this card. I don't know. Just something about it bothers me. Like, what does it mean to win? Oh, I get it. Wing it. Oh shit! I just got that in real time. Like you wing, like you're like, fuck, I'm just gonna wing it. I'm just gonna go for it. Okay, I take it back. I'm just dumb. Wing It is a 2-mana instant. It gives target creature +2/+2. You can put a flying counter on it and scry 1. Typically, this would be the sort of draft shaft that you would overlook. We have plenty of pump spells, but I think the fact that we can permanently give a creature flying, give it a form of evasion means that Wing It could be a really good card in mono white infect list. Mono white infect is one of my favorite road decks in Pauper, and I'm definitely going to try Wing It out. I think this is going to be an underrated gem for sure. Next up, we have Smelted Charge Bug, a 1/3 artifact insect for 2 mana. It has menace. When it enters, it gives you 2 energy, and when it attacks, you can pay just 1 energy to give another creature +1, +0, and menace until end of turn. Again, another card you might just kind of overlook as like a decently card draft. However, there is a Rakdos Menace deck in Pauper. The main payoff being Tentative Connection, where we can cast Tentative Connection for 1 mana, steal our opponent's creature, and then sacrifice them to something like Carrion Feeder or Deadly Dispute. What's nice about Smelted Charge Bug is it gives us good redundancy, but it also can give other creatures in the deck, like Carrion Feeder, evasion by giving them menace. So really cool card here for the Rakdos Menace deck. Gives it a lot of consistency. Alright, next up we talk about my boy Skoa Ember Mage. Man, I love this card. This dude is so sick. It is a 4/4 Goblin Wizard for 6 mana. Oh, I'm sorry. 4/4 legendary Goblin Wizard. Yeah. So for the first time in 30 years, we're getting a new legendary card on Pauper, which is amazing. When it enters, it deals 4 damage to any target, and then it can deal another 4 damage right away the turn it comes down, given that you have another Skoa in hand and 2 mountains to sacrifice. That means that this dude can hit the field and deal 8 damage to our opponent's face, basically half their life total. Just win you games out of nowhere, or at the very least, since it can deal that 4 to anything, it can come down and take out a creature of equal size. Can really turn the tides in games. My first thought here was Rakdos Reanimator, where we could exhume an early Skoa to close out the game quickly or get rid of our opponent's aggressive creatures, and use things like Faithless Looting to dig for a second Skoa so we can get that nice additional 4 damage too from its Grandeur ability. Or possibly Skoa belongs in some sort of ephemerate list. I mean, we don't have a lot of creatures in Pauper that can deal damage to anything, like the 4 damage to anything is just, that's a really powerful effect we haven't seen before. Something like Maria's Outrider is already playable, and that requires a lot more setup and can only deal damage to our opponent's face, so I'm really excited for Skoa. And of course, being that Skoa is legendary, it dodges maybe the most popular removal spell in all of Pauper, Cast Down, a card that before was a 2-mana instant that could destroy anything. Can't hit my boy Skoa, so I'm excited for the Ember Mage. Next up, again, something that we haven't had in Pauper before, a card was Split Second. Split Second is a really weird, complicated ability, but very powerful one. It basically means that this spell can't be countered, but Split Second can also be used to stop the stack completely, ending our opponent's combos, which is just a tool we haven't had before in the format. Seed Smash also has a lot of flexibility. It can be used to destroy artifacts, plenty relevant artifacts in the format, and it can be a good uncounterable removal pump spell or removal spell. So a lot going on here, really exciting. Really, I'm really happy we're finally getting some stuff to really stick it to blue. You know what I'm saying? Next up, we have Molten Gatekeeper. This is a 2/3 artifact creature golem for 3 mana. When another creature enters under our control, we can deal 1 damage to each opponent, and we can unearth this dude from the graveyard for a single turn for 1 red mana. I had already been messing around with Witty Roastmaster, which is a impact tremors on a stick, and now we have a lot more redundancy with a creature that we can play twice a game since it has unearthed. So really cool, exciting stuff here. It can be used in the Sprout Swarm combo decks, or possibly there's just enough of these to just play together and play like some goblin tokens or something and deal a ton of damage there. So really cool card. Next up, we have Inventor's Axe. Wow, this does so much for just 1 red mana. Aura and equipment have really been getting pushed recently. So for 1 red, it has flash. We can play it at any time. We can equip it right away. It gives +2/+0. When that creature dies, or if we want to switch this around, that first equip is free because it gives you the 2 energy to do it. And there's some really amazing, powerful payoffs for equipment in Pauper, especially in mono red. Things like Goblin Gavalier, Champion of the Flame. You play your Goblin turn 1, you Inventor's Axe him, your opponent wipes him out. That's fine. You play your Champion turn 2, and you immediately start, suiting that dude up with equipment with Inventor's Axe. Like, this is really going to add a lot of speed and aggression to mono red equipment in Pauper. Next up, we have Glimpse the Impossible. Another card I'm really excited about. I love the name of this card. I love the art. Really doesn't feel like an uncommon, but I will take it, that's for sure. Glimpse says, exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play any of those cards this turn. For any of those cards that you don't play, they go into your grave, and for each one that goes into your grave, you're going to get a 0/1 Eldrazi token. which you can sack for colorless mana. So this card essentially just does everything. It fills your grave, it gives you card advantage, it gives you creatures, it gives you ramp. I mean, the only thing here is that it costs 3 mana, so it might not be worth playing since we already have Reckless Impulse and Ren's Resolve, but I think it's really worth trying out since we can build our board, we can get up some protection, we can get some chump blockers, we can ramp, you know. We don't lose those cards forever, you know. If we hit 3 cards that we really want to have but we can't play already, they're going to go to the grave and we can get them back somehow. So Glimpse just does so much, I just don't see how it's not going to be worth trying out. Next up, we have Thriving Skyclaw. This would definitely be the type of card to just ignore some draft chaff, but Pauper Dragons is one of my biggest passion projects of the format, just because we have a lot of really good payoffs for dragons, but just not a lot of good dragons. The only other 4 mana red dragons we have are Young Red Dragon and Furnace Whelp, both of which are decent, but Thriving Skyclaw is technically, on his own, he's a bigger, efficient creature, especially if we play a second one before we attack with him. So I think worth noting for sure. Next up, we have Infernal Captor. This is a 3/3, 4 mana Devil Rogue. When it enters, if we can sacrifice a creature to gain control of target artifact or creature until end of turn, untap it, give it haste. You know the whole deal. Really cool because we haven't gotten something like this in Pauper before, this sort of ability on a creature. It's possible that it's just going to be too slow because it's, you know, only a 3/3 for 4 mana, which is pretty slow. But it also grabs artifacts as well as creatures, and there's a lot of relevant artifacts in the meta, so it's possible that this could see play somewhere, especially if you're ramping into him, possibly in a wildfire deck or something. All right, next up, another fun card to say, Basking Brood Scale. Challenging card to say. 2 mana Eldrazi Lizard. It's 2/2. It has Adapt 1, so you can pay 2 mana, put a counter on it. When 1 or more counters are put on them, we make a 0/1 Eldrazi Spawn. This is essentially a slightly slower version of Nest Invader, but it has an ability that can possibly get out of control. I've seen people kind of messing with this in combo lists too. So it has the same sort of synergy with Hunger the Howl Pack. At first, I was really, really excited for this, but the more I thought about Basking Brood Scale, the more I started to wonder if it's just not better than Nest Invader. I don't know. The art's kind of cool, but I'm kind of disappointed by the art. It's just like, is that an Eldrazi lizard, or is that a lizard with just a tentacle on it? You know, I don't know. A card I'm much more excited about, though, another green Eldrazi, is the Eldrazi Repurposer. That's because when you cast the spell and when it dies, it creates a 0/1 Eldrazi Spawn. I like that it creates the token on cast. That means that this card's countered, we're still going to get a creature down on the board. Really efficient. Worth noting too, since we're getting all these, you know, these cheap, aggressive green Eldrazi creatures, well, we now have a tribal payoff for those dudes in the form of Horrific Assault, which seems pretty decent actually. It's a 1 mana sorcery, deals damage equal to target creature you control, deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. If you control an Eldrazi, gain 3 life. Pretty cool. I mean, 1 mana removal spell in green for Pauper, gain 3 life, negate one of our opponent's lightning bolts. I think we could be getting enough pieces here for just an entirely different sort of deck, you know, an Eldrazi Stompy deck. Speaking of Stompy, we have Colossal Dreadmask. This is a reference to Colossal Dreadmaw, which is kind of a meme of the format. Colossal Dreadmaw is a good card. It's just been reprinted a million times. I don't know. I'm kind of disappointed here. I don't like seeing green artifacts. It's too much of a color pie break, in my opinion. And while it does seem just like a straight up better version of Colossal Dreadmaw at first, since, you know, once the creature dies, we can re-equip this, and keep the pressure on. Having this thing get destroyed by some efficient artifact removal is also going to feel pretty bad. So I don't know. I mean, Dreadmaw Stompy is a format in the deck. Maybe this will just straight up replace Dreadmaw. Maybe not. Maybe Dreadmaw will never go away. Who knows? All right, let's talk about something really exciting. Evolution Witness. Pretty crazy they printed this out common. Let's take a look at this dude. So it's a 2/1 for 3 mana. It has Adapt 2, so we can pay 2 mana to put 2 counters on it if it has no counters. But its ability is just absolutely bonkers, dude. Whenever one or more +1 counters are put on Evolution Witness, return target permanent from your graveyard to your hand. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So the first thought here is it doesn't trigger for each +1 counter, but each instance of +1 counters being put on it. So something like Travel Preparations or Homestead Courage, which we could cast and then flashback again. I mean, just think about the flow of play here. You play this on turn 3. Yeah, it's a 2/1 for 3 mana. That's pretty underwhelming, but it has Adapt. And we have these flashback spells. This thing can just fill our hand by getting back any permanents we want from our graveyard. Really reminds me too of Tethmos High Priest, a combo piece in Pauper. It's potential. I think there's potential here for Evolution Witness to be a combo piece as well. It's a little bit slower, but a little more flexible in some ways. It's more aggressive on its own, so this is just really exciting. Just the sort of ability you don't see in Pauper, something that can just repeatedly, over and over again, return any of our permanents to our hand from our grave. Next up, we have Malevolent Rumble. Malevolent Rumble, 2 mana sorcery, reveal the top 4. We can grab any permanent from them, put it into our hand, rest go in the grave, and we get an Eldrazi Spawn. It's pretty much just a better version of Commune with the Gods. I mean, it digs 1 card less, but the advantages here is that it can grab any permanent, not just enchantments or creatures. And I think people kind of sleep on the fact that it's going to build our board presence as well. Sometimes we have to make the choice between playing a creature to protect ourselves or to build our win con. Or do we want to dig and try to grab something? Malevolent Rumble is just going to do all of that. It ramps, gives you creature, grabs whatever you want, puts the rest in the grave for later. So really sick, just straight up upgrade of Commune with the Gods, a card that I played in a million different decks in Pauper. All right, we're getting into blue here. Blue is actually the most underwhelming color of this set review, which I don't mind. Tune the narrative, new cantrip. I guess if you want to try to make a really energy focused deck, this is going to be necessary for that. So not going to be played anywhere else. Serum Visionary. This is obviously just Serum Visions on a stick. At first, I was really excited about this, but then I remembered that Seagate Oracle exists, and Seagate Oracle is pretty much better in every way, so probably not going to see Serum Visionary anywhere, even though it does dig you 3 deep. And next to be... Oh, okay, hold on. This is wrong. Okay, that's wrong too. Okay, sorry. Nope, that was a different, better card game. Next up, we have Faithful Watchdog. This is one good boy right here. It's just straight up, in many ways, a better version of Watchwolf. And Watchwolf isn't even a common. Watchwolf, still to this day, is an uncommon. It's not Pauper playable, but Faithful Watchdog is better in every way. It costs the same stat line, but it has vigilance and it comes with counters. So he comes down modified. He comes down ready to get proliferated. Kind of funny that the Watchdog's better, but I guess he has a suit of armor and a sword. So Next up, we have maybe the most powerful card in this set. I don't know. Maybe I'm overhyping here, but Sneaky Snacker seems... Sneaky Snacker. God, I can't say any of these names. Sneaky Snacker seems amazing in Dimir Fairies. We can get this thing back off of a single brainstorm, and at the same time be building our board of fairies for payoffs like Spell Stutter Sprite. I think this possibly could be playable in like a tier 1 Dimir Fairies deck. I think it's worth trying out for sure. I really love this card. Really exciting. And next up, we have Writhing Chrysalis. This is a 2/3 Eldrazi drone for 4 mana. You do need red and green to play him. When you cast him, so upon cast, meaning even if this is countered, upon cast, we're going to get 2 Eldrazi spawn creature tokens. It has reach, and it has a tribal payoff. Whenever we sacrifice another Eldrazi, we can put a +1/+1 counter on Writhing Chrysalis. So even though this is at first glance, this is a 2/3 for 4 mana, I think this could be competitive viable. I mean, if it's countered, we're still getting 2 creatures down on the board. We're still ramping, even if it's countered. If it resolves, we can sack those creatures right away, start playing other stuff, get counters on Writhing Chrysalis. Now he's a 4/5, He has reach. He's blocking all of our opponent's fairies and birds. So don't sleep on Writhing Chrysalis. Along with our other Eldrazi payoff that we're getting in the format, a red-green Eldrazi aggro deck could be a brand new toy to play with in the format. All right, and now we have the landscape lands. There are, 8 of these? We're getting 1 for each 3-color combination, and these things are powerful. Wow. These are just going to straight up replace Evolving Wilds in your deck because you can play it right away for colorless whenever you need to, sack it for another land. Later in the game, if we don't need to play it, we can cycle it to draw. I mean, this is a lot. This is really cool design here. Like it feels like a common. It feels like it belongs in Pauper, and at the same time, it's really pushing the power level and kind of nudging out older staples that people are probably bored with by now. So yeah, these landscape lands, you're going to be seeing these things everywhere because there's just no reason to play Terramorphic Expanse and Evolving Wilds when you have a million of these new landscapes to play. All right, guys, that's it. That's all I got for you. Really cool, really very exciting stuff. Make sure to like and subscribe if you like the video. If you didn't like the video, make sure to comment down below and cyberbully me because I definitely care about your opinions. Maybe I'll make some new Magic videos coming up here in the future. I haven't done one in a minute, so yeah, whatever. Peace out.